You're live.
Thank you, Christina. Welcome, everybody, to the City Council meeting of October 27th, 2020. Madam Clerk.
Prior to roll call, the city attorney would like to make an announcement regarding the meeting procedures of this meeting.
Thank you. Prior to this meeting and before we take roll, I would like to establish certain matters for the record. First off, that the procedures set in place for this meeting are, excuse me, the procedures set in place for this meeting are consistent with the orders from Governor Newsom regarding public meetings and the need to prevent the spread of COVID-19. At this point, I would like the city clerk to call roll, and afterward, I'd like to be recognized by the mayor to establish certain matters for the record. Thank you.
Will do.
Councilmember Hudson.
Here.
Councilmember Alone.
Here.
Councilmember Perkins.
Here.
Vice Mayor Zafar.
Here.
And Mayor Clarkson.
Here.
Thank you.
Martin.
Thank you. I would now like to verify 3 matters for the record. 1, that all members of the council can hear me well. 2, that all members of the council have been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call. And 3, that each council member believes, based on facial or voice recognition or otherwise, that all those who are representing themselves to be council members are in fact council members.
Yes.
You got 5 thumbs, Martin.
Seeing 5 affirmative responses, I will turn it back over to the mayor with a reminder that any votes taken during this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Madam Clerk, next item is?
Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance.
And she has so graciously volunteered to do it for us this evening. Christina, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Christina. Now, Madam Clerk, next.
Item 3, announcements. 3.1, changes and additions to the agenda. We have none this evening. Item 3.2, if you would like to speak under public comment or any item on the agenda, please click the raise your hand button or *9 on your telephone. Item 3.3, boards, committee, and commission meetings. A full list of any upcoming meetings can be found on our website, and you can subscribe to those pages to get automatic notification when an agenda is posted. Item 4, public comment.
Public comment, we have 2 of them each of our meetings at the beginning and at the end. We ask that residents who wish to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda to speak to us. Please have your comments be no more than 3 minutes at most. Madam Clerk, has anybody indicated or is there any written comments?
I have received a few written comments for this item, and it appears we do have 2 hands raised right now.
How about if we go with the written comments first, and then we'll go with those who raised their hand.
Okay. Let me just get this. So the first comment is from Teresa Johnson. I'm writing on behalf of the residents of Bent Creek who are against the PG&E gas line substation proposed to be built on Stony Creek Drive in San Ramon. This gas line testing station belongs in an open area of public land, not between homes on a small residential street, where 2 homes could have been built by Ponderosa Homes and managed by Bent Creek HOA. This gas line testing station is being suggested in an area which is on Doherty Road, a busy highway linking the Windermere neighborhood to the Dublin intersection of the 580 freeway. People use Doherty to access 580, 680 freeway interchange and drive 50 miles an hour and higher speeds there every day. Building a gas pipe testing site on that road where a driver could veer into the station in between homes is asking for a gas fire explosion. Even the Camp Parks National Guard has refused PG&E permission to build this unit on their land across the street on Doherty. There are many other open spaces in San Ramon that PG&E can build this testing station, such as up by Crow Canyon or by their substation by Casa Grande Place. There's no reason to endanger residents in a small neighborhood like Bent Creek, where homeowners were never advised that this small lot was not managed by the HOA, and of which many homeowners were not aware of the potential hazard in the last 27 years. The next comment is from Jeff Gerbrot. I live in Bent Creek neighborhood of San Ramon. Recently, the Bent Creek Homeowners Association was contacted by San Ramon Engineering Department, informing them PG&E is currently in the process of designing an inline inspection station for the purpose of inspecting natural gas lines. Anyone walking through the area of the proposed site would consider this sliver of land to be part of the neighborhood, and the city of San Ramon should never allow a utility with a dubious history to even consider reducing our quality of life for this purpose. PG&E is a company with a documented history of neglecting maintenance, which have led to devastating fires, widespread power outages, toxic groundwater contamination, and uncontrolled gas leaks. It is instructive to know that prior to selecting a residential site, PG&E initially considered locating this testing facility on Camp Park's property outside of San Ramon. It was only when several years of negotiations with the U.S. Army failed did PG&E decide to move forward with their backup site so they can meet their regulatory schedule. It is surprising and disheartening to learn city employees who should be working towards the best interests of their residents would ever consider placing a facility next to a sidewalk where many parents and kids walk or ride their bikes. In addition, Ponderosa, the original real estate developer, considered the land a wildlife corridor from Alamo Creek to Camp Parks. The general plan should have always designated this land as open space. Bent Creek residents fear San Ramon's engineering department consider PG&E's request to build the test facility to be an inevitability, and in opposition to this project by affected residents only requires appeasement by city staff. With an update provided by Rod Wee, senior civil engineer, PG&E is of the understanding that the process to approve the project would be ministerial action by the city under an encroachment permit. Staff is working with the city attorney regarding what rights and entitlements PG&E has for installing this testing station at this location. However, due to the proximity of the project to residents, city staff has requested that PG&E go through a courtesy architectural review in order to address aesthetics and landscape standards. Based on the text within the report, city staff actually believe Bent Creek residents are more concerned with landscaping and not leaking gas damaging our health or potential for devastating and lethal explosions. In closing, it should not matter if the proposed site is in a public right-of-way dedicated to the city for public purposes. I would ask the members of the council and all residents of San Ramon, given all you have learned about PG&E over the course of your life, would you trust them installing this facility within your neighborhood? Is there even one other testing facility in San Ramon within a residential area? Do you really want to open San Ramon to the possibility we could be added to the unfortunate list of cities like San Bruno and Hinckley, to name a few, that they have forever been negatively impacted by PG&E? My suggested next steps are for the engineering staff and city attorney to stop working with PG&E until a public meeting is held with Bent Creek residents. So that is all the written comment I've received.
Great. And as you look for folks with their hands in the air, it's a good time for me to remind the public and those who've written comments and who will speak later on that because of the Brown Act, if items are not agendized on our agenda, we're not allowed to comment and have conversations on them. So staff we can always follow up with you. We just cannot discuss what you raise in a public meeting. So thank you for your understanding.
So the first comment is from Don Black.
Okay. PG&E is proposing to build a natural gas testing station by 2021 in the open space between 1131 and 1141 Stony Creek Drive within the Bent Creek neighborhood of San Ramon. This proposed site is an area 100 yards long, bounded by homes to the north and south, and approximately 100 feet wide at the narrowest point where Stony Creek Drive and Dougherty Road run parallel to each other. We would like the City Council to advocate on behalf of the residents of Bent Creek Park and Bent Creek Estates for PG&E to select an alternate natural gas testing station site which is not located between two homes within a residential neighborhood. As a result of the San Bruno explosion in 2016, PG&E was found guilty of multiple willful violations of the Natural Gas Pipeline Safety Act of 1968. In 2017, PG&E was sentenced to a 5-year probation period during which they were directed to create a program that would prevent criminal conduct with respect to gas pipeline transmission safety. In 2019, they were found to have violated that probation. Due to the company's history of negligent behavior, we have serious concerns about them placing any facility next to our home. And for the council members' information, I live in a home right next to that open space. We feel that PG&E is not acting in good faith to provide full transparency about the project to residents in the neighborhood. PG&E routinely sends flyers to our home to notify us of tree trimming, but has not contacted any of the residents who will be impacted by this project. Despite the fact that we as a family have reached out to the company requesting information, we currently do not know the scope of the plan, what the facility is, the projected construction dates, risks associated with the project, or the company's mitigation strategy to limit health and environmental impacts to the residents, wildlife, and local ecology. As residents, we are concerned about the safety, environmental, and health impacts of such a facility in our neighborhood. We feel this location poses additional risks because of its proximity to homes, including our own, Alamo Creek, and a busy roadway with a posted speed limit of 50 miles per hour, Dougherty Road. We understand that the impetus for selecting our neighborhood is because negotiations with the site with the U.S. Army Base Camp Parks were not successful. As a result, our neighborhood will assume a safety risk and our quality of life will be negatively impacted. We do not want this testing station in our neighborhood. We feel strongly that the residents of Bent Creek and San Ramon should not bear the price of PG&E's history of poor planning and negligent maintenance practices. I do not want this site outside my daughter's bedroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn.
The next speaker is Ved Dashputre.
Hey there. Thank you to Mayor Clarkson and to the members of the City Council who do such great work for our city. I appreciate it. My name is Ved Dashputre. I'm a San Ramon resident, and I'm also a legal fellow at YIMBY Law. That's my day job. I'm speaking today to oppose the downzoning that blocks the construction of new housing at 2701 Hooper Drive. The downzoning, I think, is patently illegal because it violates SB 330, the recent amendment to the Housing Affordability Act. The City Council's proposed downzoning exposes the city further to potential lawsuits that could lead to 2 major consequences. The first, which is that the city would be entering into a lawsuit that it would almost certainly lose, which where the city would be forced to basically pay attorney's fees for whoever brought the suit against them, whether that would be HCD or a public interest firm that would bring that suit. Obviously, that could negatively impact the budget of the city, that could impact essential services or cause tax hikes. You guys obviously figure out how you allocate that, but regardless, you have less money to play with than you would. And then second, injunctions. A district court, as a consequence of violating the HAA, could issue an injunction to the city, which would basically take the zoning plans out of the hands of our city council and instead would move it to a district court judge. So if the city wanted to have input on any kind of improvements in the city over a period of time, the district judge would preclude them from having that say. And so to conclude, we all play a role in California in promoting affordable housing, and every town has its own responsibility in that. This is the wrong place to fight that battle. Don't do a dumb thing here, which is this is a lawsuit that the city will lose. And I don't think that there's any question about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize because this public comment is for those items that are not on the agenda, but we'll remember your comments when this item comes up. So thank you. But this is for items that are not on the agenda.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
No, that's okay, sir. We appreciate your comments always.
That was the last speaker to.
Great. Then I will bring the public comment to a close. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 5, consent calendar.
Items on the consent calendar are deemed routine in nature, but anybody from the public can ask for an item to be pulled back for discussion, or from the staff and or from the council members. Is there a motion? Mr. Perkins,
I'll move consent items 5.1 through 5.3.
Second.
is moved Perkins, seconded by O'Lone. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0. Item 6, special presentation 6.1, San Ramon Depot Sign Restoration Project, presentation by Brad Morris, Program Manager.
Hello, Brad.
Good evening.
Good to see you, sir.
Great to see you all. Thank you very much for having me this evening. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you some wonderful pictures. Hopefully you can see the wonderful San Ramon Depot.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, good evening, Mayor Clarkson, City Council members. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you this evening to present to you the San Ramon Railroad Depot Sign Restoration Project. And this photo we see there of the San Ramon Depot is courtesy of the Museum of the San Ramon Valley, one of our better quality photos of the depot. And so what I wanted to do is just start you off on a real quick history of the railroad sign. Mayor Clarkson could probably do a better job of this, but I'm going to try to do the best I can here. The San Ramon Valley branch of the Southern Pacific entered service in 1891 to serve the abundant agriculture interests of the San Ramon Valley. The line extended from the Southern Pacific West Sideline south through Concord, Walnut Creek, Alamo, Danville, and San Ramon. These two-story depot stations provided room on the ground floor for waiting room, baggage room, offices for ticket agents, and so on and so forth. And the upstairs was a 2-bedroom apartment, which was the station's agent's home. All these depots were designed, were painted in faded dandelion gold and trimmed with brown. Since the depot was fully a half-mile from the San Ramon village, the train failed to bring prosperity to San Ramon comparable to Danville. The San Ramon Depot was dismantled in 1927 and a small 10 by 12 foot shelter shed was placed on the platform later that year. Around 1940, the shelter shed was purchased from Southern Pacific by Armand Burrell family. It was then retired in 1941. Many years later, Mr. Burrell attached the San Ramon Depot sign to the exterior of the shelter shed while it was on his property and referred to the smaller building as the San Ramon Depot. In the mid-1970s, the southern section of this branch was used for the surplus car storage, and the line was abandoned in 1978. Today, most of us know this line as the very popular Iron Horse Trail. The sign that was on the shelter shed was then moved to a large barn on the Burrell property and stored there for many years. And over time of it being outside, as you can see, it has become weathered and was in dire need of restoration. In the fall of 2019, East Bay Regional Park District staff met with Kyle Bernard, who is MDS of Historic Preservation Consulting. And on the site at the Burrell property, they were there to assess the condition of the sign and if it was to be restored, provide a proposal for that restoration. At the time, East Bay Regional Park District was excited to restore the sign, however, did not have the funds to do so. So they looked to partner with the city of San Ramon and reached out to a number of people within San Ramon about possibly restoring the sign. And of course, the city of San Ramon was very excited about the restoration of the sign. However, we needed to look for funding in order to do so because that was not necessarily in our budget at the time. And with that, that provided a great opportunity to form some partnerships. So we reached out to the San Ramon Historic Foundation, who jumped on board immediately in regards to funding the sign, as well as rekindled our partnership with the San Ramon 50 group. They had some funds left over from their previous campaign, and that they were more than happy to donate to the San Ramon Historic Foundation, that in return would go to the restoration of the sign. So without their partnership, this probably would not be possible. Between the two entities, they donated $12,556 for the restoration of the sign. And in agreement with East Bay Regional Park Districts, the city of San Ramon will be able to use the sign. We have a 10-year agreement with East Bay Regional Park Districts with an opportunity to amend the agreement for an additional 10 years. However, if and when they decide to build on the Burrell property and they do a museum or exhibit needing the sign, of course, they would be able to use that to get the sign back in order to use it per the agreement. So these are just pictures of the restoration of the sign. That last one, we were patching a bunch of holes. And so we were excited. A couple weeks ago, we brought Kyle out. He is from New Orleans. Flew him out for this week project. He landed on Monday and started prepping and getting everything going. As you can see, per the agreement, he came out here and he did all this work, East Bay Regional Park District's, one of their courtyards up in Las Trampas. So all the work was done in the warehouse. As you can see, him cleaning the sign, patching the holes, taping it off, painting it. And believe it or not, he was able to do it within a week, which was great. And so at the end of the restoration of that sign, we were able to find the sign a new home. And so we had been looking for it. We had a couple different ideas. We met with the contractor as well as East Bay Regional Park District. And we thought the tractor barn at Forest Home Farms property was the perfect fit. It was sheltered, it was covered, it can be locked. We don't have to worry about this gem going missing. And so we took some displays off one of the walls, put up the sign as you can see. And then, for the next 10 years, we're gonna build our own little exhibit around it, bring in some other railroad artifacts, depot artifacts, and have our own exhibit showing off the San Ramon Depot sign. And so with this, once again, none of this could have been possible without our partners and the great partnership. East Bay Regional Parks, Ann Castlebaum was wonderful to work with and spearheading this. And then of course our two partners. So the picture on your left is, Gary Albert with the San Ramon 150 and Carol Rowley with the San Ramon Historic Foundation. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were not allowed to have a big ribbon cutting or a celebration or a party, which we would have all liked, but maybe down the road we can. But we were able to get a couple of the partners there to watch the sign get placed. The picture on the right is some foundation members that were there as we watched it went up, and it was great to see. We were all happy to see the condition of the sign. We think it looks great, and we think it's going to be amazing. Living here in San Ramon for at least the next 10 years in the tractor barn with its own little exhibit, and hopefully some more time after that. So with that, I thank you so much for your time, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if you had any.
Any questions from council members? Brad, I want to thank you for the hard work on this.
I had one, Bill. Excuse me, Bill. I had one.
Yeah, go ahead.
The mileage, is that on the railroad to Richmond and then a ferry? It's not 58 miles from here to, obviously they aren't taking the Bay Bridge, but I'd be curious where the mileage was computed to, what the route would have been. If you could get Bill to dig into that, maybe, Brad.
That's a great question. I'm sorry I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but we will investigate and make sure we can display it with the sign at the exhibit.
I'll guess it was down, well, I'm not sure. If that was put on after it went through Pleasanton, it may have been the route through Niles Canyon, San Jose, and then back up to the city, that route. Almost 60 miles, that would be.
Could be. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Brad, thank you. Really appreciate all the work everybody went to put that sign up. It'll be a
Yeah.
great treasure. Any way that I can be of help after my term is done to help facilitate any neat stuff for that. There's some homework I can give you. There was a bridge just north of that station that crossed over the creek. And when that bridge was dismantled, it was taken up to the Sacramento Train Museum. And that bridge is on display in Sacramento, the bridge that was in San Ramon. So FYI.
So we're like the Greeks. We want the Elgin marbles back, huh, Bill? Is that what?
Well,
I'm not sure, Joe. I talked to Joe about putting the bridge in the city hall, but he just wouldn't go for it.
All right.
well, now that we have our sign, we're going to build around it. So we're going to
Yes.
go on as our little fact-finding mission regarding the railroad and the depot and all that stuff. So it's quite exciting, and I will take all the help we can get.
Thank you so much, Brad. Really appreciate all the work.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Madam Clerk.
Item 7, deferred consent items, we have none. Item 8, adoption of ordinances, we also have none. Item 9, city council appointments, there are none this evening. And item 10, approval of minutes. Before you are the minutes from the meeting, the city council regular meeting from October 13th for your approval or amendment.
Is there a motion?
I can move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, corrections? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0. Item 11, continued public hearing, Crow Canyon specific plan update. Staff report by Cindy Yee, Senior Planner.
Hello, Cindy.
Hello there. Thank you. Good evening. I'm here this evening to present the third public hearing on the Crow Canyon specific plan. On September 22nd and October 13th, the City Council held its first and second hearings on the Crow Canyon specific plan update. In addition to the highlighted changes in the staff report, the plan included a reduction within the plan area from 735 units to 634 residential units. Since the October 27th meeting, the city received a letter from a housing advocacy group echoing the opposition to the reduction in the housing units that the council previously heard at their first two public hearings. So in response to the request to restore the residential capacity to its original number, staff has researched the issue and concluded that the city's interests are best served by revising the proposed plan update to bring back the residential capacity of the 101 units back to the 735 units from the original 2006 plan. So staff recommends this evening that the council consider the revised proposal, continue to take public testimony, and continue the item to November 10th, at which time staff will present an updated ordinance reflecting the change to the increase of residential capacity, along with updates to the environmental document to provide review of the updated changes. And with that, that concludes my brief staff report this evening. I'm available to answer any questions that you might have, but ultimately we're asking for a continuation of the public hearing to November 10th.
With the council's permission, can we go to public comment? I'd like to open it up and take public comments.
Can I get a question of staff before we do this?
Yes, absolutely, Dave.
Cindy, I want to make sure I heard, but did you say continue the item until the 10th? Or put the overlay in there and continue the item to the 10th? The housing overlay back in?
Yeah, the recommendation would be that based on staff's research, we would reestablish the existing residential overlay and restore the residential capacity to 735. That will be included in the introduction to the ordinance that we will present on November 10th.
Thank you.
Good question, Dave. Any other questions before we go to public comment? Then I'd like to ask anybody from the public who would like to address us on this issue to please, Christina, let them know what the ground rules are.
If you'd like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand button at this time at the bottom of your screen or *9 on your telephone. I do have one written comment for this item, as well as it looks like we have 3 hands raised.
Great. Let's go ahead and go with the written first.
Okay. So the first, or the only written comment we received is from Jim Blickenstaff. The 1,350 up to 1,600 new people this plan will bring into the city should have, by the city's own standards, 8.7 to 10.2 acres of new parks. Instead, it has a creek corridor of insufficient acreage mislabeled as a park. A creek corridor is incompatible with the usage impacts of a public serving park, but the fundamental reason it cannot be used as park mitigation is that state law, in addition to Ordinance 197, requires the creek corridor be preserved and protected. Simply labeling it as a park does not change the fact that the already protected corridor will add nothing to the CCSP's obligation for actual park mitigations. To the extent the city adds extra acreage next to the creek corridor, those areas could contribute to proportional percentage of the park acreage needed. The percentage would depend on the extent to which their amenities are consistent with public serving park functions, such as playgrounds, soccer fields, baseball fields, cricket courts, picnic or common areas, walking paths, and parking staging areas, etc. Currently, sufficient park set aside an essential component of the residents' quality of life, look to be short by as many as 8 acres. It appears once again that public park needs will take a backseat to higher planning priorities. It is a disturbing trend that has continued with the limited park mitigations of the CWMP. Tonight, the City Council has an important opportunity to take the necessary steps to resolve this serious CCSP park deficient issue before it becomes embed forever in a final approval. That was the only written comment I received.
And those folks who have not yet spoken on this, are there anybody who would raise their hand?
So I have Brian Wenter.
Great.
Good evening, Mayor Clarkson, members of the City Council. I assume you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. I represent Windflower Fields, LLC, and Mr. Hassan Sharifi, the owner of 2701 Hooper Drive, which is currently occupied by the Golden Skating Rink. I'll try to make my comments brief. At the outset, I'd like to thank staff for agreeing with the wisdom of putting back in the CCSP 101 units of important housing. And if I heard Cindy correctly, that would also include restoring the residential overlay that had been slated to come out of the plan. So I'd like to acknowledge staff for that. I think that's a wise choice and a good one from a housing policy standpoint. In addition, I'd like to acknowledge staff for productive conversations we've had about the proposed project that we have filed with the city pursuant to a preliminary application under Senate Bill 330. I think we've had some productive and useful dialogue there. Again, as I've said before, assuming that we are correct, that there are no further issues about the preliminary application and that we are on to processing the underlying formal application and the actual project. You know, that's critically important because SB 330 and the preliminary application established the earliest form of land use and housing vested rights provided by state law. So again, if there's something we have wrong about that, we would expect to know, but I don't believe that there is. And so credit to staff for working productively with us in that area. As this goes forward, I would briefly note that I believe under Government Code Section 65857, this probably would require another recommendation from the Planning Commission before it comes to the council for this kind of revision. But in any event, whatever it ends up coming forward, we would hope that there's direct acknowledgement of the application we filed and of the residential development that may exist on this site under the plan as it exists once it's eventually modified and as our project proceeds. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian. Is that all the public comment, Christina?
We do have Ved Desputre.
He spoke once already on this, a public comment.
Okay.
And Martin, am I okay? I'm not crossing any lines there, am I?
He lowered.
No, you have allowed him to speak. You had the option either of allowing him to continue to speak on the matter during public comment, which you did, or cutting him off and having him speak on this one.
I chose not to cut him off. Thank you, Christina.
It looks like he lowered his hand, but we have another hand raised by Sean Offers.
Great.
Can you hear me?
We can, Sean.
I'm Mayor Clarkson and everybody else. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me speak. So my name is Sean Offers. I'm the listing real estate broker for the Culligan site at 2810 Old Crow Canyon. I really need to thank Cindy for her tireless time of me calling her and emails and everything else and helping us try to find a way that ultimately I can sell the property for my client. Per the information established, I believe it was August 18th, in regards to non-conforming uses, I believe we were able to expand a little bit that some certain non-conforming uses that were legally established may be continued or transferred or sold in compliance with the property, which is great. Over the past year and a half of trying to sell the property, it's been very difficult with having a multitude of various users, small businesses, etc., who have been interested in the property. They feel constrained knowing that ultimately this is going to become a park. What I was hoping to do and what I sent over to Christina and Cindy, I provided a list, and it's a pretty extensive list of various users that I think both short-term and long-term are actually going to be very beneficial to that area, especially given the additional housing and everything in that area. I have daughters that go to the swim school, gymnastics center right up there, up Deerwood and Old Crow Canyon. And so I was hoping that you could look at what I had provided so that we could expand again on these very users that are outside of maintenance and repair. And that would still, I believe, provide, something good that is needed in that area. I'd also like to adopt some sort of, not necessarily a streamline, but at least a good point of contact of when I do have people looking at buying the property or interested in it, how I could get them to a point of contact with the city so that their needs and questions are addressed in a timely and efficient manner. So outside of that, again, I can't thank you guys enough for at least working with us and trying to find a way that would accommodate, a small business selling a property and ultimately the city getting something there that would work for them long term. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Christina, anybody else?
No, that was the last request to speak.
Then I will close the public comment and look to council members for follow-up questions and thoughts on these changes that have been proposed. Dave.
I'll start it off. I've already emailed Martin back. I think that his letter pretty well describes the position we should take. I don't think in light of that letter that we should be adopting the update tonight. I'm prepared to move, and I'll wait till others do it, to the 10th and set adoption for the 24th, with the key being that on the 17th, the Planning Commission will get a look at it. Putting the overlay back in there probably is the simplest way to do it. if there's anything other than what I'm about to say, I would like some council members to chime in. I think a couple of us, a couple of you have an idea of what should be going in. I guess we don't call it the Crow Canyon specific plan. What are we going to go, the San Ramon Valley Boulevard specific? We're going to have enough letters in there to start an alphabet. But you know, I've had my shot at this. I've probably been through 4 or 5 of these specific plans, and who knows, this might be the one that works if we just get the little things out of the way and focus on what is the vision down there that has gone through planning. To me, that means continuing, put the update back in, and hear what the Planning Commission has to say before adoption on the 24th.
Thank you, Dave. Sabina, you had your hand up first, then we'll go to Scott.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to understand the history, why we downzoned. Was there a reason? I know we were in parallel also approving the city walk plan, and some of the reasons might have been that, but I would like to get an understanding of why we initially downzoned and what advantage were we getting out of that.
Sure, I can.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, sure, I can address that. And the history kind of goes back a couple of years when we started the onset of the update to the plan back in 2017. One of the things that we were doing in parallel to this project was the economic element update and updating our general plan to identify where we wanted additional commercial developments in the city, where the concentration of residential units we wanted throughout the city. One of those targets during our joint workshop in 2017 and 2018 was this idea that we wanted to restore commercial properties to be able to maintain some of those smaller partial small business uses that would contribute to the viability of this plan area. In addition to concentrating the residential development within the core of the village center area, which is at the intersection of San Ramon Valley Boulevard and Deerwood Road. And so the idea was that we would in part concentrate the residential units within the core of the plan area, while also looking at, in the long term, creating separate sites throughout the city where we could provide units in a higher concentrated, centrally located area such as City Walk. And so throughout this process, there have been that direction to relocate units kind of closer to the core of the city. In addition to that, SB 330, which is the no net loss provision that we've been discussing at our various meetings, the city has always had a responsibility to identify this no net loss concept, but it wasn't until the adoption of SB 330 earlier this year that took an even narrower approach to no net loss. And so there was direction kind of early on in the process, but then state law has just recently changed as well. And so ultimately, there is the ability to restore back the residential capacity north of Purdue Road or Freya Preserve Parkway, which is what the original 2006 plan previously identified as future residential sites.
So if I understand
Thank you, Cindy.
correctly, thank you, Cindy. We are going to add housing back at the cost of losing some commercial space, or is that what it's competing for now?
It's not. It actually provides for maximum flexibility within basically a 21-acre area north of Purdue. And in flexibility, what I mean is that we are going to retain the base zoning of the commercial land uses that are proposed within that area. What we're doing is putting an overlay on top of that commercial zoning, which would allow the flexibility of a developer to build residential if they so chose to, or continue with the commercial development as it currently exists. So it gives the ability for that property owner, if they chose to take a different direction from how they're currently using their parcel now, to be able to develop residential on those parcels.
Okay.
Thank you, Cindy.
Overlay, I'm trying to understand some of this. By overlay, then that means if they were going to build a 5-story commercial, for example, whatever a height limit is, they could build a commercial at the bottom and then 4 stories of housing on top of that. Something like that. Or what does that mean when we say commercial residential overlay?
Sure. So when I say maximum flexibility, I should probably elaborate too. So we have a current base zoning of the property as commercial.
Okay.
So land uses that include anywhere from warehousing, smaller repair, auto, oriented businesses. Those land uses can continue to remain if the property owner chose to redevelop that parcel with another commercial building and strictly use it for just commercial purposes. The Crow Canyon plan would allow them to do that. By establishing this overlay on top of the commercial base zone, it also allows that property owner to develop or redevelop that site with residential. So they have an ability to put residential on top or residential on the side, or take out the commercial altogether and build just residential. So there's, whereas the original plan that was presented in our first public hearing only provided the property owner the ability to just do either a commercial project or a mixed use project. By adding the overlay, the property owner has the ability to do a residential only project as well.
Okay.
Great. Scott.
Okay. We ought to take just a moment to go back to 2006 and how we got here. In 2006, you have to recall we had the redevelopment agency, and the redevelopment agency allowed us to assist projects with additional funding. And so we allowed for some substantial changes to what was possible. One of the things we encountered in 2011 when redevelopment went away was that we had 700 units in this area. And if a developer said, well, I'll put 150 here and I'm going to put 180 over here and we'll put 200 over here, we could end up with what I called skittlepox. We could have skittlepox of residential mixed in with all of our commercial and retail. And we felt that that wasn't really good planning. So we needed to reduce the area that residential could be applied. And that's what we started to do in 2017, but we just weren't quite fast enough. We run the risk with the overlay of taking out what is currently viable retail. If you go to, I think it's called San Ramon Square. Is that right, Cindy, Debbie? San Ramon Square. There's 4 or 5 little shops. There's a glass shop. There's a Chinese restaurant. There's I think there's an Indian grocery store. So there's a variety of little retail shops there. Well, that has a residential overlay. So here we run the risk of the developer saying, hey, I've got 6.5 acres or whatever it is. I can put in 150 units and make a killing. And I'll just wipe out all this this retail. And so we said, why don't we just remove the overlay and bring the housing back down to the corner of Deerwood and Fostoria and Purdue, no, what is it, Omega and Old Crow Canyon. Bring it down to that corner and we'll concentrate all of the housing opportunities in that area. That's kind of what the council and the planning commission thought of doing in 2017. And that's what this process was supposed to do. And then we got caught by SB 330. So that gives you my perspective. Cindy gave a very complete answer, but I wanted to provide my perspective on why we felt it was important to bring the housing overlay further south and not risk losing some of that very nice retail opportunities. I do have a question. When we, I guess this would be for Debbie or Cindy, when we go and we start working on RENA in 2021, and we start allocating however many thousands of units we're going to have to do, can we come back and revisit this area and including the specific plan and make future adjustments?
So let me answer your question in two parts to start with. So the first part is the residential overlay does not include San Ramon Square. It's only north of Purdue. So adding the overlay back in does not affect the work of the commission and council that we have done south of Purdue in modifying those land uses.
Okay, thank you.
North of Purdue. So I, Councilmember Perkins, that I think
okay,
fears the proposal. So what we're looking at tonight is just add in those additional 101 units to avoid this concern, as Cindy expressed, with SB 330. So it's only north of Purdue. It doesn't affect the work the council has done. That was one of my concerns. We were working through this issue to preserve the work that we have done to date to concentrate those units as much as we could to that core of the Crow Canyon Plan area. So I think to the degree we accomplished the vision of the commission and council to date, we just need to add these units back in north of Purdue.
Okay. Now
Thank you, Debbie.
Regarding the RENA process that we will be undertaking here, well, we are in the middle of it, I guess I should say right now. Yes, there is the potential we will be visiting the Crow Canyon Plan area. It all depends on, as we start assessing the sites that we do have available for residential development and the capacity that we can attain on those parcels. So everything we'll be looking at all the sites in the city. So I cannot say whether or not this area will be affected. We will be informing the council throughout the process and providing updates and probably workshops as to appropriate sites and our capacity analysis that we'll be doing for all the sites in the city. So that's a long-winded way of saying I'm not really sure, Councilmember Perkins.
Okay, thank you.
Phil.
Thank you, Bill. I don't know if this is for Cindy. What is the density allowed on the residential overlay?
The residential overlay, we would be mirroring what the 2006 plan allows for residential overlay, which is 22 to 35 dwelling units per acre.
Thank you. And is there anything, this is directed, I think, probably at Martin. Is there anything stopping the owner from San Ramon Square of reaching out to Mr. Winter tomorrow morning and getting out his pencil and going through the 17 checks and submitting something on Thursday?
At this stage, no. If they wanted to meet all the 17 requirements of SB 330 and try to get something in under the current laws and ordinances that are in place, they could start that race. But you know, they would have to make that a complete application under SB 330 terms.
Or a nearly complete application, then debate about concurrence and simultaneous and those sorts of things, huh?
Right, exactly. Well, they wouldn't have to do that if they weren't coming in under the revised specific plan.
Okay, so, and how many acres is the Golden Skate property? Cindy or Debbie, do you know?
3.3 acres, I want to say.
3.57.
3.5 acres. So 60, 80 plus bonuses, 100 units sticking out like Nick Jagger's tongue at the entrance of San Ramon. That'll be an interesting project. I'm sure we'll be proud of it. I hope they show some, I hope they show a little, maybe don't push it too much. It's kind of an odd place to put housing half a mile from anybody else. That was basically our concern, right? So, okay. Thanks for your answers.
Thanks, Phil.
Second Dave's motion. Go ahead, Bill.
Couple of comments. One is this should, like Dave said, this needs to rotate back to the Planning Commission. This is too complex for us to work out here right now. But a couple of comments. I'm not as concerned about if they add a couple of more units, 101. That doesn't bother me nearly as much as expanding out the housing overlay. And I really want the Planning Commission to look that over because it absolutely defeats 3 years of work we've been doing to try to create a really vibrant village for that part of San Ramon. And to Phil's point, if we allow buildings to go up here and there that are outsized for the surrounding buildings, for that particular property owner, that may be a win, but for the area as a whole, I think it's a huge loss. It's going to destroy the ability of us to create a vibrant, compact village that's got enough critical mass to it in one place to allow the retail and the other surrounding stuff to thrive. And if this housing overlay and we scatter out these units, somebody said it's like having a set of teeth with every other tooth missing. You'll have these gaps in these buildings. I think it's an absolute shame. I'm not an authority on 330. And if indeed it's going to throw a bowling pin through the middle of our process, I guess that may be the case. But it makes me angry that we have legislatures in Sacramento trying to plan cities, micromanage cities, and to give us rules that utterly defeat our ability of creating vibrant, really successful villages as we're trying to do here and other things, and the pursuit of creating housing. And this is a city, especially looking at City Walk, we have been right in the forefront of creating housing for our community and housing for our region. And this appears, for this particular area, to, in my mind, unwind 3 years of really thoughtful, productive work. I had a couple of questions about the Culligan plant, without getting too deep in the weeds. What is that specifically zoned for? And what is his comments about non-conforming uses being approved?
Sure. Excuse me. I can address that, Mayor Clarkson. So the property, the Culligan site located at 2810 Old Crow Canyon Road, has quite a long history. It was established originally in the 1960s before the city incorporated, when the San Ramon Valley Planning Area was the review and approving body. When the original parcel was originally developed, it had a commercial zoning designation on that parcel. Subsequent to the city incorporation, the city adopted a general plan that identified that site as a park land use. And it's retained that general plan park land use since the city's incorporation. So throughout the years and over various downtown specific plans and redevelopment agency plans, that site has been identified as a future park site. Outside of the park land use, there is an existing business that exists on the property as a legally established non-conforming land use. And so businesses that have been established at the time legally can continue to remain operational and in business. That property is currently being offered for sale. And over the last year or so, they've been actively marking the parcel for another commercial land use to take over the operations at that site. Culligan's is identified as a maintenance and repair land use in the city. And so a like for like replacement of maintenance and repair is typically how non-conforming uses can continue to operate on that property. I believe the email that was sent was a request for the city to consider potentially expanding, the other land uses that might be allowed on that site, because maintenance and repair is fairly narrow in the sense that there are only certain types of land uses that could potentially replace that use. And so I think that's kind of the gist of that letter. But it is right in the middle of and surrounded by other park land uses that we're proposing. Right adjacent to that is the city, the redevelopment agency's 1.3 acre parcel that the city owns. And so the goal is to increase the park acreage ultimately in that area for the long term, and create a park zone that would go from the redevelopment agency to the corner of Old Crow Canyon and Crow Canyon Road.
The designation as a park occurred nearly 35 years or so ago. It sounds like back when the city, just after we incorporated. I'm not a big fan of cities taking somebody's commercial property and making it park because it essentially takes away their value. Were they compensated for? Was there an agreement reached as to they signed off on that and they were okay that it became parkland with the knowing that there were limitations to what that land could be used for in the future? Was there some arrangement made?
I don't have much history into that changing of zoning designations between the around that 1980s timeframe. So I don't have a lot of history as to what transpired at that time, but it has operated as that land use
Yes.
since the business originally established in the 60s. So, but I don't unfortunately have any history of.
I would be curious in terms of how I would proceed my decision making on that. Of course, I won't be on council then, but what I would have done approaching this would have been to look in the history of that, because if there had been an accommodation made or some compensation or some agreement reached 35 years ago when the city made this future parkland, allowed them to continue to operate, and there was some sort of agreement saying, thank you, we got some money, or we got something was done in terms of consideration. But the ground rules were that property owner knew that going forward, he would not be able to use it for other purposes, or eventually it would become a park. Then I think we should honor what was done before because the compensations had been done. If there was no compensation, then it seems only fair that like for like can continue. And a part of me would be concerned about going with non-conforming uses and what it sets up for ground rules. So that's just some background on how I would have approached it if I had been around when you do this later on down the road. I simply want to finish by talking about, I think, and I know Sabina's got her hand up and so does Dave. It's again my recommendation that this go back to the Planning Commission to get worked through. So it's a really thoughtful process. Dave, and then, no, actually Sabina was first, then Dave.
If Councilmember Hudson wants to go first, since he didn't speak yet, I'm fine going after.
I think he spoke first.
Okay. I mean, the comment I want to make is that it seems like our economic development plan is now competing with a housing plan. And we've already, there's like, look at Dory Valley, we already have concerns. There's not enough commercial and economic development opportunities there right now. And as we're planning and building this, I'm very much concerned, like Mayor, you said as well, that we're trying to create this vibrant village, which can be a mix of commercial and housing, because people that will live there will also need some amenities there. And of course, revenues for the city from, the different multiple resources. So for me, that's very concerning right now, that we are having to pick and choose between our economic development and having to comply with some of the rules over 100 units. So just wanted to raise that.
Dave, you started, maybe you'll finish.
Let me stay with the last thing. First of all, the state finds that the housing is an economic concern, and that's why they're pushing housing so much, because we don't have the jobs. When we get into council comment, I'm sorry, we don't have the housing. When we get into the council comments and I go off on Rena, you'll really see why this is upsetting. I want to go back to something. I almost wish we could hit rewind, listen to what the mayor said, rewind, listen again, rewind, listen again about this Calgon. If we've made some kind of arrangement and there was some kind of compensation or what's the word I'm looking for that you used, if you can help me out?
Consideration,
then by all means, we have to stick to what that agreement is. Let me remind you, in our first general plan, we did that. And the sentence read, because golf courses are disappearing throughout the state of California and the developer received special consideration, this land should remain open space permanently. So if we've got something like that in our first general plan, if we look back at it, maybe I wasn't there, Phil, but if I have one of those plans in my garage, I might go look for it. But I mean, this is extremely important, that if we've got consideration given to do it again, it sets a precedence. And I can tell you where I know a lot of people have come out of the woodwork if we did that. So
yep.
Yeah, I think your statement is so appropriate that we should keep it in mind when we make the decision.
Scott, and then bring us to a close, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I think Sabina was absolutely right. We've now got housing in direct competition with our commercial retail sector. And that we should never be put in that position. That's a horrible dilemma to put us in. And you know what Bill said at the beginning about ruining our plan to congregate, if you will, or collapse our housing area, so we do get some kind of village. You know, I keep using the Skittlepox things. You know, to have one little dot, you know, or the gap tooth, one little dot in the very north corner, and then put another dot someplace else, and you never get a cohesive plan. You have to give places like Walnut Creek credit for what they've done in their downtown. It took decades to make it happen, but it happens only with a plan that's been well crafted. And this kind of blows up our well-crafted plan. And it makes me angry, but we're going to move on.
Okay, given the feedback that we've all heard from each other, is there somebody who wants to craft a motion to proceed going forward?
I think I did, if I know, Mayor, that we continue. That's the first thing we're asked to do as staff's recommendation, continue this to November 10th with the overlay in the plan, send it to the Planning Commission to get their feedback on it a week later, and then set it for adoption on November 24th, which I believe is the staff recommendation.
And I seconded that, just for the, and do we continue the hearing stays open? Is that something that has to happen?
Absolutely.
Yes, and just as a point of clarification, you're talking about bringing back the overlay, but as staff has indicated, the overlay is only going to be brought back in part. So if the motion could include bring back the overlay as necessary, or either north of Purdue to be specific, or if you want to be a little bit more general, as necessary to restore the housing capacity to its
I'm
original.
fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that correction. That's what the planning commission is going to look at, if I understood the staff report to begin with.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion on that motion? Martin, any comments on the motion? We clean?
Yes.
We're good, all right. Seeing no further comments, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Safar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
If I could just comment on something, Cindy, for somebody who said you weren't prepared to talk about the history, that was pretty impressive off the cuff. So thank you.
Good comment, Mr. Alone. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 12, new business, 12.1, City Hall renovation update, verbal report by Maria Ferner, Public Works Director.
Hello,
Good
Maria.
evening. Hello, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. If I can go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Sorry.
And Maria, while you
Yes.
do this, I'm going to excuse myself for 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. Okay. So should I go ahead and proceed? Yes? Okay.
Yes, you can go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. So I'm happy to be presenting the City Hall reconfiguration project, provide an update. As you know, this is all under construction, so there are a lot of highlights to share with the council at this point. So the reconfiguration project, as you know, it's a result of the public safety building project that is starting up. So the staff over at 2401 Crow Canyon Road in the north wing need to move. So we created this CIP project to house the staff coming on over. The construction contract was awarded by City Council, approved by Council on July 28th. The full project budget is $3.25 million, and that includes design, construction, and the move itself. The project scope includes moving the Public Works to City Hall, and that is the Engineering and Transportation divisions. Also moving the Community Development Department to City Hall. The inspection group, both the construction as well as building inspection, will remain at the Police Department, and they will be housed there. We'll also be moving the permit center to City Hall and create a one-stop public counter with a greeter. So it'll have a really great entrance and a public area for the public to come to, whether it's the permit, any type of public needs that are coming to the City Hall. We'll be reconfiguring the former EOC training room, creating a traffic operations center, and relocating other departments within City Hall. So this is a look at the proposed layouts. Up on the top right, we have the second level, and the Public Works Department will be up on the second level north side. On the south side of the second level, we'll have finance and the Human Resources Division of Administration. The mayor and
Perkins has a question.
Maria,
yes.
can you change your display so you're just showing the current slide and not the current plus the next slide, so we can see the current slide?
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. How do I do that?
Probably display settings, Maria. There you go.
Maria, it's your slide presenter's view.
Did I do it?
Oh,
There you go.
There, that works.
thank
It's
you.
okay? Okay. I apologize.
Yeah, it's
No
all right.
worries.
It makes me-
Okay. All right, thank you. So moving down to the lower level, we have the community development department on the north side of the first floor, and the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk on the south side of the first floor. And I'll go through each of these areas briefly in more detail on each one of the wings. Over to the left, I just wanted to show the color palettes, the different looks of what we are going to be putting in, whether it's the carpet, the offices, the cabinets, etc. But as you can see, it blends in with the existing city hall and really uses a lot of these colors to accentuate the new permit center, the new public area. So this is the first floor north. Again, this is the community development department, and you can see that the passport office is the first office to the left, just right along the adjacent to the main hallway. Adjacent next to that is the permit center. And then you have the greeter. So I kind of went backwards, but if you're coming for the rotunda, you'll see the greeter first. The public can see the greeter. Then you have the permit center, public counter, and then a separate door for the passport offices. And I also show information technology. They will remain over in the far left corner. I wanted to include some renderings of the permit center. So as you can see, this really clean look using those same colors. So as you walk into the lobby, you will see this as the front of the permit center. So the staff will be sitting along here. This is the front, the back side of the permit center area. The passport office, this is two looking at it from the staff side, and then this is from the citizen side, the applicant. And this is, you can see that there's the existing door to allow the public to come in, or the applicant to come in through a separate door. But you also see some glass windows and walls here. So what that does is it really opens up the look of the lobby and let some light in there as well. If you look at the top right, if you're in the hallway and looking directly at the permit center. So to the right, that's the greeters area, the permit center area, and then you have the passport. So these are all open. It'll have that really nice open look, as you can see in the rendering below that. The nice open windows and glass doors with the blue trim to kind of tie everything together. Okay, moving to the first floor south, the items I wanted to highlight here, we have the staff, the city manager, the city attorney's area, and then the city clerk. So they are all housed along the wall here. And then we have the police substation that we reconfigured. So their area is right here, and they have their own separate door off to the side. We have the executive conference room, which is the former green room where the council holds closed sessions or any type of executive meetings that can be held in this area. And it opens up so that you have the coffee area, the restroom, and then some amenities. And I have some details there. And then we have the training room, which we have reconfigured. It's slightly smaller, maybe just a couple hundred square feet or so, but it will be able to seat approximately 24 attendees or those who are using it. But we have a really nice layout there with the monitors. I'm looking at some of the amenities there. So this is yes.
And that has access from the outside so that the public can get in from the outside without having to go through City Hall.
That's correct. So we have this door that is for the training room that you can exit from the outside, as well as entering from the employee door in the back and then enter the training room there. Okay. So this is the executive conference room. If you're standing looking into the conference room, as you can see, we have some really nice glass paneling. There's some opaqueness down through the middle to give some privacy. We're also including an etched logo of the city logo onto the glass. So it'll be really nice. We have some art amenities, we have some accent walls, and then we have the monitors in here for viewing purposes. Below that, we have the executive suite display case. So if I go back to the previous slide, when you're in the main hallway and you turn into the executive suite area right here, so along the wall to your right as you're walking in, we have created the executive suite display case. So any types of awards, any types of artifacts, anything that the council, city manager, anything that we would like to display has a really nice display case as you walk along that side of the hallway. Okay. So it's obviously under construction. We're right now at the framing stage with some drywall. So these are the offices down on the first floor south. Focusing on the training room and the PD substation. So the training room, this is the outside of the training room. So as you're entering the back doors of the city hall, notice the glass wall here that we have included. So that really opens up both for having light go into the training room as well as seeing out into the hallway. So it really opens up that training room area. And as you look into the training room, this right here is where the glass walls are. We'll have monitors just like we do now, or we did. And then we have a nice logo along this wall as an accent to that training room. And these are just some casework that will be included on the south side of the training room. All right, moving to the second floor north, this is the public works area. So the engineering division and transportation division will be moving into this wing. This is where the parks department used to be housed. They have moved to the San Ramon Community Center as well as the Doherty Station Community Center. The one thing I'd like to highlight here is that we are creating a traffic operations center. So what we will have are monitors, our large monitors that show our traffic operations, signal operations. We'll have our equipment. So we really want to showcase our traffic operations, especially with all of the technology that we're putting towards traffic signals and communications. So if one were to be walking up these stairs to the second floor, there's the window that is right here. And if you look in, then we'll be setting it up. So let's say we have tours coming in with the students or anyone, they can come and they can see the monitoring of the traffic signal operations. So we're really excited about putting that together.
So Deb's in a fishbowl.
Yes, she's really excited. And then we have the mayor and council offices, the last two offices here on the right, top right corner. Again, the second floor north is also under construction at the same time as the first floor south, about the same type of work going on with the framing and the drywall. And then finally, we have the second floor south. So this is Finance Division and Human Resources Division. Human Resources is already there. So Finance will come up to the second floor and move into the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk area. There's pretty minimal type of work going on this floor. Just a little bit of work in the open areas in a couple of the office. And then the mailroom moves upstairs. Okay, so how are we doing all this moving? So this was a challenge because when construction was going on, the area can't move and one can't move until the other one moves. So phase one is what we just discussed, which is the construction that is happening right now. Phase 2 will be the actual move. So if we're looking at this diagram, Phase 2, Level 1, this purple area here is where the city manager, city attorney, city clerk will move downstairs. At the same time, Public Works will move in, leaving 2401, coming to the second floor. And then once the city manager's suite has all moved, then the finance division will move upstairs to the second floor south. So it's right here. At the same time, we'll be starting construction of the community development department, as well as the public counters and the permit center. And then we have the final layout, which I showed at the beginning of the presentation. So the notice to proceed was issued on August 10th. And the completion of the first floor south and all of the second floor is anticipated to be the beginning of December, with all of the moves of Public Works and city manager suites happening beginning of December. Then we'll have the administrative staff move upstairs mid-December and begin the construction of the first floor north, which is the permit center, public counter, and passport office. That will start happening in December and January. The first floor north will be completed in April of 2021, at which time the community development department will move over. The permit center, the passport office, public counter, will get it all open with the project completion by end of April 2021. And we have started coordination with the fire district. That presentation is happening after this one. So we're doing a lot of collaboration to make sure that our move out of 2401 is being coordinated very closely with the construction of the public safety building. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Maria. Looking to council members, if you could close your screen. Great. I don't see any raised hands right now.
Maria did such a good job of walking us through it.
Oh, I know.
Thank you so much.
Maria, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Item 12.2.
Oh, wait. I'm going to apologize for a second. Martin, should we receive public comment on this item?
Yes, thank you. You should ask if anyone needs to.
Thank you. I almost raced off without doing that. I'd like to open up for public comment. Anybody like to make some comments on this? Christina?
For those in the audience, I would like to raise your hand. Please do so at this time by using the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen. And it looks like we do have one request to speak from Fire Chief Pagemeyer.
Tell him no.
Oh, I knew I'd live to regret this.
Yeah, I'd just like to take only 30 seconds of this time to say that you need a more aggressive timeline. That's all.
Well, Chief, take all the time you want.
That's all. That's all I have.
Chief, before you run, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being a great partner for us on this project, the project up at the public safety building. You guys are great. And we all appreciate you keeping us safe and how many balls that you guys are juggling with all the fires here in the state. I know you've got crews heading out almost everywhere and you're juggling your schedules. Please let everybody in your department know how much we appreciate what you're doing, not just for us here, but for all the other residents of the state and what the fellow firefighters are doing. You guys have been carrying a load that's unprecedented the last 3 months. So thank you, sir.
Appreciate that. I'm going to miss you even more after that statement.
Christina, anybody else?
No, that was the only request to speak.
Thank you all. We'll close the public comment now.
The next item 12.2, Public Safety Building Complex Communications Center and Emergency Operations Center Update. Introduction by Fire Chief Pagemeyer, San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District. Presentation by Jeff Katz, Jeff Katz Architecture. Let me promote them all in right now.
Welcome back, Chief. Long time no see.
How you doing? Okay. Can we get started? Can we do the presentation now? We just left and we're back. We're here. So
we're back. You're here. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Joe Gorton, city manager. It's an honor, as always, to be here. And we're excited to present to you the progress. And the reason I raised my hand earlier is we're ready to go. And I've been cracking the whip on Jeff Katz and my staff to get this project going and underway. So we're excited about it. As you know, this council specifically, and I know there's going to be some changes, you guys have been amazing partners on behalf of the fire board, who understands that this project was very difficult to start with, and the partnership was great, but still there were challenges. They send their best, and they really appreciate that partnership. And obviously we'll have some changes as well on the fire board, but I'm sure we'll move forward very productively with the foundation that was set out by this specific council. So thank you for that. And then the other thing I wanted to add was your awards case. If you guys need any awards, we're happy to share ours with you. That was for Phil, actually. I'm just doing that for you, Phil, because I know you enjoy it.
I thought maybe we'll present you with a map of the city so you can get places quicker, right?
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we're excited to show you the progress we've made. Jeff Katz has been working, and I'll introduce him. Jeff Katz, you've met him before. He's here. He's going to be assisting in the presentation. His associate, the design manager, Christy Jewett, is here, as well as our very own, I'm not seeing her on here, but hopefully she's somewhere in there, Denise Pangelinan, who is the representative for the district that deals with the city of San Ramon. So we will, oh, there she is. So we will make comments as necessary, but I'd like to turn it over to Jeff and really focus on the fact that we've been doing this monthly with our board, and on a quarterly basis, we want to come to you and kind of do a presentation so you know where we're at, how things are moving, and we're excited with a 3D virtual look at the building as well. So we will continue to do this into the future, and with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff to take us through with Christy the presentation.
Great, thank you, Chief. Mayor Clarkson and council members, pleasure to be here to speak to you this evening about this project. And thank you to Maria for laying the groundwork for us about all the work on your end that has to happen in order for us to move forward with the project as well. So I'm going to give you a brief update on just a recap of the project and the status currently. And then Christy Jewett from my office is going to give you a virtual tour through the building as it stands right now. It is a work in progress as we move toward trying to get these drawings complete, but we want to share where we're at and give you a sense of the direction we're heading. So with that, just to remind everybody what the project entails, obviously you're familiar with 2401, so your existing police in the south portion of the building, and all of the functions that Maria spoke about that are vacating out of the north portion of the building. And then the project also includes the construction of a new emergency operations and communications center to serve both the district and the city. So to briefly touch on the various portions of the project. So lower level of fire admin, which will be moving into the north portion of the building, will include their public counter and many of the training offices and staff, as well as locker rooms on the lower level. On the upper level of fire admin will be their new boardroom that will be taking up the west half of the upper level, and then the executive offices will be on the eastern half of the upper level. And that will be, again, accessible off of the existing main lobby that will be reworked in order to accommodate that. On PD side, at the lower level, the project includes modifications and expansion of the women's locker room, as well as an expansion of the building to accommodate a larger weaponless defense and fitness area. That's the predominant improvements on the lower level. And then the majority of the work in PD is happening up on the upper level, where we're essentially redoing all of the upstairs area. Right now, it is not a particularly efficient layout of that space. And so we're reworking all of it to improve the efficiency. Maria mentioned that the inspectors were staying in this building. So we've carved out an area here in the northwest corner for inspectors. There will be a separate entrance off of the main entrance walkway for inspectors. And so they'll be able to come and go without having to go through PD to do that. And then we are reworking the entirety of this floor to accommodate improved functionality, as well as upgrade all of the officing spaces. And then, of course, we are building a brand new emergency operations and communications center. So on the lower level, we have the emergency operations center with offices and breakout rooms or smaller conference rooms to enable small groups to be able to meet and plan while the main planning is happening in the emergency operations center. This is accessible with access from the police department within the secure area, as well as direct access across from fire admin. And then on the upper level, we have the communications center, which takes up the majority of this upper floor, as well as bunk rooms to accommodate any of the dispatchers. And then we have a large server room to accommodate all of the equipment necessary for maintaining communications and radio contact for this center. So those are the various components of the project. Currently, we are working on developing construction documents and coordinating all the various building elements for all the components of the project. We will be submitting at the end of next week what we're calling a 75% complete set to the district and the city for review. We are anticipating submitting for plan check, our first round of plan check, late December of this year. And we are anticipating bidding the project early next year and award of contract and start of construction in the March timeframe. So March, April timeframe. So that is in conjunction with the move out and vacating of the north portion of the building and relocation of PD temporarily into the north wing of the building. Currently, as Maria mentioned, we are coordinating with the fire district and the city on many elements of the project, including all of the communications equipment, security system requirements, the phasing of construction, what we call FF&E, so furniture, fixtures, and equipment, as well as the finishes. So the virtual walkthrough that we're going to do for you now does not have all of the finishes incorporated in the project. We're working to put together those materials to present both to the city and to the district for approval. And so as we come back to you for future presentations, our model will continue to evolve and show you that additional level of detail. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and let Christy share her screen. You're not able to see Christy on camera because the computer that we use for our virtual walkthroughs is a high-powered computer, but it doesn't have a camera associated with it. So she is, if we were in person, you would see her, but she's going to be here to walk you through the project. So Christy?
Thanks, Jeff. And yes, my apologies for not being on camera. Very powerful computer, no audio or video function, so bear with me. I'm going to take you through a walkthrough of first the Emergency Operations Center, which is the new construction. As Jeff mentioned, it's a work in progress, but you'll start to get a feel for the spaces, for the layout of the building and what it might actually feel like to be inside. So coming around to the entry here, I try to go a little slow to not make anyone nauseous, because that can be a result of these VR walkthroughs. But here is the EOC portion, solid wall with TV monitors, with meeting spaces flanking each side with glass partition walls. And then on the right side of your screen, you'll see all of the offices for this floor of the building. So we can kind of peek in a few of the offices. Again, starting to develop finishes. So we're looking at, carpet in the office, but this might not be the final color, that sort of thing. Same with the desking. Just wanted to show you, a typical office layout. So we'll come around to this side of this floor, and there's a small break room on this level, some restrooms off to the left. And we'll go out the back door here and up the stairs to the next floor here. I'm stuck on the stairs. All right, so in these doors, I'll bring it back down here to actual regular height. There's a small fitness room in here, just a treadmill for their use. There's a larger fitness center over in the fire department admin center also. In here is the kitchen and break room, much larger with some outdoor space incorporated for dispatch, which brings us around here, a little fire truck out there, into the dispatch room. And so all of the dispatch consoles are laid out. These are going to change a little bit, but overall, we got this information from Denise, who we've been working with on coordinating. And so you get a pretty good idea of how this space is going to be laid out. Again, with the monitors on the walls. And then on this side is the dispatch supervisor with windows open to the dispatch area. Little office there. Nice little corner view. And now, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to jump to the police department lobby for the admin area of the police department. And so this area is just getting new finishes and kind of a overall refresh of the space. There's a small conference room over here, public restroom, and then into the secure area here. And I'll take you through the city inspectors area first that Jeff was pointing out. So this is just it's shown open now, but this door will be probably just emergency egress only. So there won't be any back and forth in between the city inspectors and the police department. So in this area, we just have open cubicles, 2 offices that flank the front counter area. And so this public service counter with door to the exterior dedicated entrance for this portion of the building. Conference rooms, and then a small break room with a kitchenette, and then the ability to be used as a secondary conference room. That was an important feature too that we wanted to include. Just kind of zoom through some walls here to go back. All right, so now to tour the rest of the police admin. And as Jeff mentioned, you'll notice in this walkthrough that there's not a ton of open space like the current layout of the police department. We really took into consideration ways to better utilize all of this space in the building And, we wanted to make the most efficient layout possible. So we'll kind of come through here, and the existing training room is right here. That's just going to get some updated finishes, but otherwise stay the same. But what you'll notice is along here is all new offices, large hallway area for if there is an event where there are several people in this room, enough room to congregate. And then again, just some typical office layouts. We've worked with the police department on several iterations to make sure we got the correct amount of offices, the right layouts, the right adjacencies, which is very important to make sure that the departments are all, near each other and trekking across the building. This is an existing entrance to remain. And then through here, again, more offices, some storage, conference rooms, just making the best use of all of these spaces. This here is another existing exterior door with straight paths through down to the lobby. Back this way, we have some open cubicle areas for report writing, a few different open cubicle spaces that are adjacent to offices of the same department. You'll bear with me through the last of the corridors here. Spin you around to the new detectives area. And so we have a glass partition wall. Since it is an interior space, it will allow some lighting to come in, but basically an open office area with several workstations in it. And then heading down this way, there's going to be new locker rooms for staff, and those will be in these doors here. Just basic lockers and showers in there. And now into what we're calling the executive area or admin area. There are two conference rooms, one smaller one on this side of the hallway, and then one larger conference room over on this side. It's a nice big conference room that's in the secure admin area. All right, and nice little waiting room in this area, some more offices and cubicles, and then the police chief office here with direct view to that EOC that we toured previously, and a new door with a direct path from this area of the building to the Emergency Operations Center. And with that, I can just bring us back to that lobby where we started. There's some records offices here, front lobby office right here. And then back to where we started. We don't have the trophy case modeled yet, but I think we have some room for one if we want to add one. But yeah, so that concludes this portion of the tour. And like Jeff said, we're continuing to develop every single day. We're making more and more improvements, and we'll continue, to show the fire department and the police department our progress and let them weigh in on all of these items. So thank you.
Thanks, Christy. So with that, we'll turn it back over to Chief, and we're here to answer any questions you may have as well.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Christy. I don't think I'm be good at those video games. I don't think I'm going to get on video games anytime soon, just following along there. But hopefully you see the progress we're trying to make. I know that the space itself has been, I think, poorly designed and not for any fault of the city, but because what it was before. So we're excited to simplify that. It's still a very large space, but if any of you, and I know many of you, if not all of you, have been in there, sometimes you can get lost, and we're hoping to minimize that. But we're excited about the change. And as I think Christy said, we're also excited to work with Chief Stevens and city staff to make sure that areas that they're involved with, specific to the police department, and then the partnership in the EOC and the communication center, that those come together nicely. And it truly is both of us working together when necessary. And then we both have, final say on our specific areas. So I'm hoping Chief Stevens feels like that. Then we will continue to work to make sure that we include him and all of city staff in that. And just like to say, also from my perspective, the communication center and the EOC being an essential service building, you can see we have the space, we have the ability to really handle any emergency. And unfortunately, as you all know, whether it's wildfires or earthquakes or pandemics, we're finding ourselves in a position that we're using these things a lot more than we were when I first got into this business. I'd just like to give Denise Pangilinan, do you have anything to add by any chance?
No, Chief, I think that covers everything.
And then Chief Stevens, just give you an opportunity if you have any comment.
Well, I would just like to say that I love my new office. It looks fantastic. So thanks to you and thanks to Jeff. We actually just had a meeting yesterday, and he's great to work with, and it's kind of pretty awesome to kind of see our vision coming together. This is the first time I've kind of seen this 3D rendering. So looking forward to the project, looking forward to working with, of course, Jeff and your team, Paige and your team, and we're really excited, and we're definitely moving in the right direction. Okay, thanks. And then the only last thing I'd say is, and I know Denise and I have been talking about this, the communication center, as you know, we have one location over on off Sycamore at Station 31, and we will have a secondary means of communication. So it's going to be nice. We'll be the only ones in Contra Costa County that have that. I'm sure that Contra Costa County sheriffs and fire will probably take us up on utilizing us at times. And I'd be remiss without, and I mean this sincerely, without thanking city staff for all their contributions, specifically Joe and just the partnership in general. It has been great to be able to present this to you, which was just a kind of hopefully you guys are seeing something in it. And I'll turn it over to the council and or other staff for questions. I guess that's why you put us last, Joe. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got one. Councilmember Perkins.
I keep putting my hand up and you keep putting it down.
Could one of you, Mr. Katz or maybe Chief Meyer, describe the structural design of the new EOC dispatch center? I know that it's an upgrade from what we've got. Could you go into some detail on what that level of structural integrity is going forward?
Yeah, I keep it simple, Councilmember Perkins. It's bomb proof. But I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to give you a little bit more detail.
Hey Chief, you know what kind of bombs I work on?
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true. You make a good point.
It's not bomb.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been my description necessarily, but so great question. To clarify, the existing building, both PD and fire admin are being structurally upgraded to current standard building code. So we are doing some upgrades to those. And then the EOC and communication center is being designed as an essential service facility. So where a normal building is designed to maintain life safety in the event of a seismic event or some similar activity, to allow people to get out of the building, an essential service building has to remain operational. So it is a higher degree of structural integrity, and all of the systems are designed to remain operational.
And I would assume that there's some special elements of the ventilation system as well, in case there's, the toxic event happens out on Crow Canyon Road. Do you have the ability to and in fact seal the building and yet provide breathable air for your staff?
So the building is designed, obviously, to bring in outside air on a regular basis, but these systems are designed to have flexibility to zone and modify the systems themselves. So that would probably be a manual operation for that to happen, not an automatic operation, but there is the flexibility in the system itself to accommodate that.
Okay, thank you.
Dave.
The conversation last week, I asked how things were going with the Air District, and I think the question I want to ask is, I mean, have there been attempts to do anything with the Air District on this, which I pretty much know the answer. And the second part is, would you like to try again to see if we can get more out of it? And I'll preface this by saying there are a lot of grants out there, and there are a lot of vehicles besides fire trucks and, you know, police cars that we use, vans, etc. But maybe the big one that I didn't make clear, I think when we first heard about the EOC back in 2018, the issue that Councilmember Perkins just brought up about toxic air contaminants. Well, the biggest toxic air contaminant out there is fires. And I brought this up to the basically your counterpart page at the Air District. He said, if you were following kind of the guide of the legislation that Buffy Wicks had, where people have a place to go, where the filtering and the air is clean, and because a lot of people really don't tolerate this well. I mean, we might even pay for the whole thing. Now, I'm not going to even commit half of that to you, but he was very interested in your EOC building and getting some money to it. I'd like to try again, if it's okay. If you haven't gone too far along with the plans, I'll start by getting a hold of a director I know over there, and if she's willing to come out and take a look at the plans and everything, if we can get some people together and say, you know, what can we do? Because there are millions, if not tens of millions of dollars going into solar for charging units and all the things that you could do in there. And we're getting asked the questions, when are we going to do something like this? Well, if it's not out of hand and it's not totally ridiculous, or we could even go with a loan out of this new technology implementation office, may be worth it. So if you don't mind, starting tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to call and see if we could set something up. We'll kind of work backwards and then have you call her and set up an appointment. Last time I did that, it took 20 minutes to get $1 million. So hopefully you got Denise.
Yeah, there you go. No, yeah, we have been looking. We continue to look for opportunities for grants, and anything you can do to put us in contact is going to be very helpful for us. And it's not too late. It's never too late to do any of those, I think those progressive, smart ways to do business. So we look forward to talking to you, Councilmember Hudson, about that.
Sabina.
Yeah, so I guess the question I had was, in Irvine, I've been following with the fires and everything, their EOC is now being used to house a lot of folks there. Anything you could tell us about, you know, if we were to have something like that, how many people could we accommodate, and how would this, you know, building serve our residents in that case?
Yes, our EOC is not constructed to handle actually taking on folks to stay there. Really, it's for their own. It's for our own folks that end up having to, you know, do 12 or 24-hour shifts in the EOC itself. So we're not set up for that. But you will notice that the capacity, our EOC capacity will be able to handle, at least internally in the county, any emergencies that come through. So I'm confident of that. But as far as everything else goes, we go to shelters and we have all those mapped out in case of a major emergency like that. Usually, again, schools and different areas like that would be what we'd be looking at, not this EOC.
Okay. And the other question I had was, we don't have an outdoor walkthrough of the of the structure yet?
Not-
Outside
Not
the parameter?
yet, well, not yet, but I'm hoping that Maria will continue to do a great job, and we'll be able to do that sooner than later is what I'm hoping.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn to Christina, since no other council member has a hand raised, to see if there's any public comment and give people an opportunity to make any comments.
For those in the audience that would like to speak on this topic, please use the raise your hand button at this time. Does
Not seeing a hand go up. I'll go ahead and close the public comment. Any last minute comments from our council members? Chief, I made my comments earlier to you. Our appreciation of everything you're doing is just, we so much appreciate it. All right, sir?
Yes, thank you. And just briefly, and I know I think I'll have an opportunity to say this in the future, but again, this council has done amazing work, and the partnership has been, it's been a true honor to be a part of it with you. And for a council member alone, and you, Mayor, I know that you don't have much time left. So I just really appreciate everything you guys have done, from considering things to working with us to really being leaders and setting the stage for, I think, generations to come. You are both integral parts of what we've been able to accomplish. So on behalf of my staff, I know we do a lot of presentations, and for some reason we come in here and we have a good time with you. We have a few laughs, but we really truly appreciate who you all are and what you've done. So thank you.
Chief, those are kind words, but the reality is the heavy lifting here has been done by Joe Gorton and our staff, and the accolades should really be directed towards Joe and your whole team, Joe. You guys did a great job. Scott.
Christy Jewett, you need to add that bright stripe down the middle of the lobby in one of your future presentations at 2401. Have that great big bright stripe right down the middle.
Blue or red?
All right.
Well,
yeah, do we have to fade it into purple, or what are we doing?
Well, you see, you got the fire district on one side and you got the police department on the other side. So somewhere along the line, you're going to have to figure out where the boundary is.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 12.3, progress update on City Council 2020-2021 goals. Presentation by Steven Spadowski, Deputy City Manager.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight I have an update on the council goals. It's an update as to the items that have been completed by October of 2020. We do have over 90 items in this presentation, so I will try to go through them briskly and also group them where I can. I'm going to share my screen right now with the PDF. And please, if you have any questions or comments, I may be missing the raised hand function now that everybody's minimized in the lower corner of my screen. So just please interrupt me for any specifics that you like on any of the items. So tonight we're going to be going over these ongoing priorities, and I'll start with, of course, priority number 1, maintain a safe and secure environment. And one of the goals is to enhance crime prevention education activities. And we continue to expand and support the community neighborhood watch programs, provide crime prevention presentations to numerous community groups, and share crime prevention tips through online and social media platforms. Planned for June, by June of 2021, continue the education through community programs and continue to utilize our various platforms to share crime prevention tips and strategies. Moving on to the next goal, improve bicycle safety through the community by continued implementation of the bicycle master plan. Prior to October, we installed class 2 bike lanes on Old Crow Canyon Road and conflict zones throughout San Ramon. And planned by the end of the year is the installation of SHAROs, that's the shared bike and car lane markings on Montevideo Drive, conflict zones and bike lane buffers on various streets, and a bike demonstration project on Bollinger Canyon Road. So moving on to the next goal, continue implementation of the ITS, the Intelligent Transportation System. We embarked on design for fiber optic installation on Bollinger Canyon Road and Doherty Road. And the plan by the end of the year is to finalize the fiber optic design for Bollinger Canyon Road and Doherty Road and begin construction for installation of the new conduit and fiber optic cable on Bollinger Canyon Road. So I'll take a brief pause there. That's priority number one. If we have no questions, moving on to priority number two, maintain a secure financial base. And the first goal is to efficiently annex and integrate the last part of Doherty Valley. And so far this year, we've completed the pre-zoning and
Steve,
filed
your
LAFCO.
screen did not update.
Uh-oh. There you go. Did it? Did it do it there?
Nope.
Then I will.
There.
It updated for us.
There you go. There you go.
I'll take it out of full screen view just to make sure. Is it working now?
We're good. We're good.
Okay, great. So we covered the LAFCO annexation, and we've accepted.
You're back to there. Oh.
Are we on priority two?
We can see priority two. Scott, which priority do you see?
Now I see priority two.
There might be a slight delay then.
That's priority two.
Okay, great. So accepting the annexation of trail improvements for the Doherty Ridge Trail. So that occurred by October of this year. And planned for the end of this year is the annexation of the tax roll to be completed by 2020. And also to accept annexation of common areas in Doherty Valley for landscape and irrigation maintenance. So moving on to streamlining of the Doherty Valley oversight process. The DVOC remains active until acceptance of improvements and build out is complete. And by the end of the year, we continue to coordinate planning for the village center. The next item, support economic development element through the city's general plan, through the implementation of the economic development strategy plan. We developed a business assistance program to provide support for local businesses applying for COVID relief funding. And by the end of the year, we will be reviewing the EDSP by the EDAC to see if there's any other suggested short-term strategies to help businesses due to COVID. All right, moving on to priority number three, just confirming that you can see it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Priority number three, maintaining staffing to provide city services. So the first goal is to ensure sufficient staffing needs in order to maintain service levels to the community. And as you can see, this year we filled, I won't go over all of them, but throughout various departments, we did fill many positions that were either vacant or people retiring. And then planned for the end of this year, we do have the restructuring of some planning services and business license functions, to reflect the move to City Hall and transfer the greeter position to community development. We have further staff promotions and backfilling for upcoming retirements as they occur, and future staff assessments for upcoming new Rancho San Ramon Phase 2 Park, Critter Crossroads Park, and the Preserve Special Zone. PD will be making efforts to keep the PD at near fully staffed, and this will include both sworn and non-sworn positions. And the Parks Department will reorganize the work of the department to better match the goals in the master plan and open recruitments for positions that were not filled during the pandemic. The next goal is to complete the integration of the new ERP system into citywide operations, and that has been complete from the admin side of it. So the financial software is all in and the city is using it, but the community development department is currently working on migrating all of the old data into the EnerGov system for the permits and licenses. And they are working on that now. And by June of 2021, they should be operational and everything should be fully operational. And continuing on with priority number three, continue to work on a succession plan that captures institutional knowledge from long-term city employees who will retire during the fiscal year. And again, we have several replacements and also reorganizing of staff to take on specific duties. I won't go through the whole list that we've completed by October 2020, but we do have planned for June of 2021. The police department will be instituting an internal leadership and mentoring program. Public Works will continue succession planning in each division and program area. Community development will provide additional cross training for planning specialists and office specialists. And the Parks and Community Services will provide opportunities to do cross training, work on special projects, and develop additional skills to staff at all levels of the department. Moving on to the next goal, support and fund the Iron Horse Trail overcrossings by completing the design phase. So completed has been the design has begun, hired an independent cost estimator, and hired a construction manager general contractor. Planned for completion by the end of this year is design will be largely complete, all permits in place, cost estimates updated, construction phasing and scheduling refined, and finalizing of the funding. So I'll pause there briefly for any questions. All right, moving on to priority number 4, build and maintain quality facilities and infrastructure. We have, for the first goal, promote deep partnerships with transit agencies to enhance transit options. And so you can see completed by October 2020, we added funding to extend Go San Ramon on-demand transit service, established monthly coordination meetings with County Connection, LAFTA, and BART to address public transit to and from San Ramon, and participated in the Innovate 680 studies with various focuses there. Planned for the end of the year is to update and finalize the transit incentive programs for youth, commuters, and residents, replace the Transit Information Board at the Transit Center, and initiate replacement of bike lockers at the Transit Center with new bike locker system. Moving on, continue to develop the development of a joint public safety building with the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District. You just received about a half-an-hour presentation on that. I don't know if you have any further questions. I can just move on to the next one, which also is on the next page, continuing the joint safety building project. And then moving on to the implementation of the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan, completed by October of this year, implemented training on key points of the master plan with the Parks and Community Services Department, discussed the top priorities in the master plan with the Parks Commission, and also renovated and improved the San Ramon Community Center and the Alcosta Senior Center and Community Center. By the end of the year, we plan on applying for Prop 68 per capita grant project using the master plan to select a project, identify and set up a meeting with stakeholders regarding options for adding shade to the Iron Horse Trail, develop a plan for renovation of Crow Canyon Gardens, and also research the development of a level of service metric for the San Ramon open space acreage and trail mileage. Also renovating and improving the San Ramon Olympic pool, including replacement of the water slide and water play equipment. I believe that is it for priority number 4. If we don't have any questions on any of those items, I'll move on. All right, priority number 5, enhance engagement and communication with both residents and the business community. So the first goal is to enhance the content and accessibility of the information on the city website. And so far what we've done this year is we created several special web pages that focus on topics of high interest, such as the City Walk and COVID-19. The Parks and Community Services Department developed a virtual rec center at the beginning of the pandemic, moved the rec guide to an online only format in order to increase the ability of staff to quickly react to changes in health orders and offer programs to the community. and created a Students in Action webpage to highlight all the teens who developed projects to help the community during the pandemic. Planned for by the end of the year, we continue to add information to single topic web pages and promote throughout the community as the one-stop shop for timely and factual information. And also, we plan on developing a community resource page on the website to make access to information regarding how to get help for domestic violence, need for food, or need for counseling service to be more easily accessible to the community. The next item, we're kind of experiencing it now, explore technology improvements that will broaden the accessibility to city council meetings. We did relatively quickly implement a remote video conferencing service for all city meetings and establish a live stream option for council and commission meetings. And by the should we also meet in person by the end of the year, we do plan to continue to live stream those meetings online when in-person meetings have resumed. And that will be most likely through YouTube. Moving on to priority, again with priority number 5, the next goal is to explore city-sponsored activities and create gathering spaces to increase a stronger sense of community. So far, we've continued to promote any virtual events and alternative activities on all city social media feeds and via email when appropriate, whether it's hosted by the city or another group. When we find out about it, we make sure to promote it to the residents. Also completed the installation of the Story Walk in Central Park. Partnered Parks and Community Services partnered with local fitness instructors and businesses to provide and expand outdoor fitness classes in the parks. We are in the process of implementing 3 socially distanced Halloween programs that allow some community interaction while following all of the county health recommendations. They also created a wish tree right outside of City Hall to engage residents and provide a place for people to express their feelings during this difficult time. And they've also utilized the Agents of Discovery app to engage residents and encourage visits to Forest Home Farm during the pandemic. By the end of the year, we do plan to continue to promote in-person events if they are allowed, with a focus on communicating the any gathering regulations that may come about. As you know, we just moved to orange today, so we should start to see some activities resume. And also by the end of the year, Parks and Community Services plans on implementing the first virtual Culture in the Community event. They will work with community groups to implement a temporary interactive public art installation around the theme of racial equity and develop a virtual 3rd grade farm tour to educate youth about the history of the region and encourage them to visit the farm with their families. And finally, moving on to priority number 6, which is the focus on land use planning for housing, jobs, and open space. The first goal is to prioritize housing growth in the city core while preserving the existing retail, commercial, and open space. And as you know, the approval of the City Walk master plan, as well as the entitlements for the City Center Hotel have been completed. By the end of the year, building permits are anticipated for the City Center Hotel and continue the process of the City Walk master plan, and also meet with the development community to discuss infill housing opportunities. The next goal is to preserve permanent open space along the city boundaries through partnerships with other agencies. And completed this year, transfer of 177 acres of open space on the laborer's property to the East Bay Regional Parks District. That is now complete. And by the end of the year, we continue to discuss open space dedication with property owners on the west side of the city. The next goal, promote the walkability of both within and to local shopping centers. As you know, the City Walk Master Plan circulation component has been approved. The Crow Canyon specific plan update that promotes walkability is underway, addressed tonight, and continue coordination with Contra Costa County regarding the Tassajara Parks MOU. And by the end of the year, adoption and implementation of the Crow Canyon specific plan to enhance the walkability and connectivity in that area. And finally, the last goal, develop a walking district in San Ramon that connects City Hall, Central Park, the new main library, and the city center, coordinated with PCS on design and the adoption of the walking district that has happened this year, and hopefully by the end of the year, the adoption of the walking district plan. So with that, I know I went over many items relatively quickly, and if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Dave, no, it wasn't Dave. I'm looking to see who has a hand up. There, it's better. With the screen bigger, it's easy. I don't see a hand up right now. Steve spent a long time getting this ready.
And we're thrilled with it.
I have a question. Can you do it again, Steve? I was on mute.
I can go a little faster if you like.
No, don't.
It is, again, phenomenal the amount of work our staff has been doing this last year, and I appreciate you taking the time to summarize that. Really phenomenal. Given the pandemic, given that we run on a pretty tight budget, it's amazing the things that the staff can create. So again, thank you, Joe, your leadership.
Sabina
Seeing
has,
no other hands raised. Oh, Scott, I see a finger.
well, no, Sabina has her hand up.
I had my, yeah.
Oh, this blue on blue makes it tough. Thank you. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, add on to what the mayor was saying. Really, appreciate, there's a whole process which sometimes people don't see of how we go through some of these priorities, how we hone down on what is important to us, and how, really staff has taken this, and especially during the pandemic. I would say some got accelerated, like a live streaming, but truly taking some of these priorities, looking at them, and I think next year is going to be an interesting one. We may, depending on what our budget looks like, we may, or may not be able to fulfill some of our priorities. But I think overall, we've done a really good job in this year, considering we couldn't do a lot of things, that we've been able to do a lot of things. So I really appreciate it, and Stephen, especially the communication part. I mean, throughout this year, the mayor's breakfast is getting popular by the day, I would say, and just the outreach and community
Just froze.
with which the information has been coming out of the city has been just phenomenal. So I really appreciate that communication part, and how much you put into that website, going from, I don't know, 10 to 100 or something like that, during the pandemic. And so that's been one way that we're communicating, and that's been a really strong goal, which I appreciate, us going above and beyond and fulfilling that.
All right, Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Item 12.4, resolution number 2020-100, authorizing the exception to the 180-day wait period under Government Code Section 7522.56 and 21221H for the hiring of CalPERS annuitants and the temporary appointment of Ron McLean as a recent CalPERS annuitant to the position of maintenance supervisor in the Public Works Department, Public Services Division. Staff report by Maria Ferner, Public Works Director.
Hello, Maria, again.
Hello, good evening again. The item before you is to request one of our recently retired employees to be temporarily appointed to the position of maintenance supervisor in the Public Works Department, Public Services Division. Ron McLean retired as of October 16th, just recently, after 35 years with the city in public services. His primary role was to supervise the Public Works fleet, the shop, and 2 service centers. In order for him to return, an exception needs to be made to the 180-day wait period for the hiring of a CalPERS annuitant. This action also requires a public meeting. The maintenance supervisor and his staff manage, operate, and maintain over 80 vehicles, 130 pieces of equipment, all the tools needed for staff to perform their work. They also oversee all the shop, yard, and safety protocols, and oversee all the contractors that enter the yards for sweeping, dumps, deliveries, loading, unloading. Ron has certifications and specialized knowledge and skills in all of these areas. And for this reason, staff is requesting the temporary appointment of Mr. McLean to the position of maintenance supervisor in accordance with Government Code 21221H. If this temporary appointment is approved, Ron will provide general supervision in day-to-day operations of the service centers, assist in the preparation of the program budget for 21-22, complete all the purchases and inventory of vehicles and equipment for 2021, provide various training for our shop staff, transition the new supervisor once they are on board, and assist with succession planning. There is no net fiscal impact, no benefits or additional compensation beyond an hourly salary rate would be paid. The total number of hours will not exceed 960 in 2021, and the cost of the appointment will not exceed roughly $65,000 for this fiscal year. The need for this temporary appointment is estimated to be 3 to 6 months working on a part-time basis. Thank you, and I can answer any questions you may have at this time.
I don't see any hands raised.
Oh, I have a question. I'm not going to get in the way of this. I'm just a little puzzled. He's been aboard for 35 years. So that means this wasn't a sudden retirement. What was there issues related to the pandemic or something like that? I'm a little puzzled why there's transition planning after he retired versus before he retired. Maybe Joe, do you want to speak to this, or Maria? Yeah.
This is actually some of the succession plan. It's not as linear as you might think. So we can't hire anybody till they've actually retired. We can start some recruitment processes, but that also takes time. For instance, we'll be coming to you probably in December for Eva because she's retiring as well. And we're trying to get the recruitment time, plus part of the succession plan is to allow for Ron's 35 years of experience to be able to train anybody new coming in. That allows for this kind of an overlap period of time. We did it, if you remember, with Jeff Galt. And it's just not the recruiting and hiring doesn't exactly align. So it's kind of an overlap that allows us to keep functioning.
That makes sense to me. I'll move approval.
I want to ask Martin, public comment.
Yeah.
You're on
If
mute.
anyone wants to speak, they should be allowed to do so.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask Christina if you could open up to the audience if somebody would like to make a public comment.
For those in the audience, I would like to speak on this item. Please use the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or *9 on your telephone.
If there isn't a hand now, I will close the public comment. Entertain a motion.
I'll move resolution 2020-100.
There's already a motion.
I already made a motion, Bill.
Dave made the motion, I believe.
No, Phil made the motion. I seconded it.
Oh, well, I apologize. I was already thinking about public comment before that. Any other comments on the motion that was made? Christina, you got the motion?
I did, yes.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Then I'm going to go back to Martin for a second. I believe I failed to ask for public comment after we reviewed the council goals, and I would like to correct that oversight. With your permission, sir, can I ask for public comment on that item?
Well, as I was watching, there was no one raising their hand asking to speak. It was okay to close the item. However, given that this wasn't a public hearing, if anyone wishes to now say something about it during the next public comment period, they may do so.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Item 13, city manager comments.
Okay, thank you. I have a few comments. I just want to remind everybody that the Parks and Community Services are hosting the Halloween home decorating contest, the virtual costume contest, and a very cool scavenger hunt out in Central Park. If you haven't seen it, I invite you to go out to Central Park, do the scavenger hunt, and if you haven't driven by City Hall, it's a great fall display out in front, which is, I believe, the starting point for the scavenger hunt. Another note, the mayor's conference a few weeks back instructed the public managers group, which are the city managers of the city, so all the cities in Contra Costa County, to explore possible avenues to improve critical incident response for mental health folks in mental health crisis. I'm part of that subgroup. I'm happy to say that all the cities are on board, and Contra Costa County, we formed a working group, and Contra Costa County is leading that working group. So we'll be issuing invitations to stakeholders, Discovery Center, to be part of a value mapping process coming in November. And we're looking forward to analyzing some of these things and seeing if there's some improvements we can make to the process. This is a very, very large undertaking. It'll be looking at dispatching. It'll be looking at all the core services that the county has, that the cities have, and working together to look for additional improvements in the system. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a very big project, and we're hoping to report back to the mayors, and I will give updates as we go through the process to the city council. And the launch point, if you will, really will be this value mapping process, part of Lean, if you know the Toyota process, and hopefully we'll have some good outcomes. That's it for me.
Item 14, public comment.
It's an opportunity for anybody who has not yet spoken at public comment the first time to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda. Are there any hands raised?
It does not appear anyone's requesting to speak.
Okay, I will close the public comment. Next item.
Item 15, city council members and mayor's comments.
I'll rotate on my screen. At least starts with Scott.
Two things. I love the scarecrows in Central Park, and each of the departments, and we actually have some local merchant ones out there. I noticed that Trader Joe's had one out there. Those scarecrows are fantastic. I hope we can do, some of these things come out of our COVID response and shelter in place, and some of them ought to stick. That's a really fun one. Second thing, we had a Tri-Valley Transportation Council meeting. Most of the meeting was pretty bland, pretty typical, but the real highlight for me was we had a resolution for Scott Haggerty, the Alameda County supervisor that's retiring. His imprint is all over the place. And I know Phil served with him on the rail, the Valley Link project. He helped get money and work with Catherine Baker on that. And he also worked with Catherine Baker on the parking lot over at the East Dublin BART station, and on and on. And Dave could probably list 100 things that Scott's worked on over the years, but he's been a key member of our Tri-Valley Transportation Council and so many others. He said he managed to waylay and get rid of most of the resolutions from most of the committees he's been on, but we managed to sneak one in. And frankly, we're going to miss him, and I'm sure we're going to get a good replacement. But it's hard to replace that kind of history and dynamic leadership.
Dave.
Yeah, he's going to try and waylay his resolution from the Air District too, but it's not going to happen. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's been on the air district. I mean, an appointment to a subcommittee longer than I've been on council. I mean, he's been around doing this a long, long time. And he's been very helpful to us. That's the calm thing to bring it. I'd leave it to the mayor to elaborate on what I'm about to say, but that RENA meeting that we had October 15th did not go well at all. And I have no doubt in my mind that we will probably get a number around 4,700 allotted to San Ramon. After appeals, we'll go up to about 5,000 homes we have to produce. They'll probably ask us to do a ridiculous number for very low, which I personally think we should. Is this televised? Yeah, I don't care. We should ignore it. The problem is going to be exacerbated in that Danville, who has none of the jobs, but all of the houses, is probably going to get a number around 2,000. Well, where can Danville put 2,000 homes? I mean, what were we talking about where we got a sign from the depot tonight? I mean, the Burrell property is going to get a lot of housing, folks. There's no getting around it, which is also going to reflect on us. It's not completely over yet. There'll be some nasty letters and whatever else you do, but somebody somewhere must have just got disconnected, because the idea that Santa Clara, who should probably be the same population as Orange County, but has 2 million people, had their number reduced by 52,000 homes. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So the projection through 2050 is 3 counties, you can guess the 3, who are woefully behind in housing, are going to get 2/3 of the jobs and not 2/3 of the housing. Well, it's net sum gain. Somebody's going to have to pick it up. I'll give you a wild guess who that's going to be. So, but I'm not upset about it at all. Not at all. Anyway, this is something for the next 2 or 3 months we're going to have to watch closely. But if you think staff had to work on this before, going from 1,400 to about 5,000 homes is monumental.
Thanks for the encouraging news, Dave. Phil.
Just one item. Joe, in your work on this mental health thing, I was just reading something today about, significant upticks in mental health issues, but also very major upticks in use of technology.
I think Phil froze for a second. Technology.
And he freezes.
Actually be able to help tease out some of the issues related to police having to be the first responders and some issues like this. So it's something to keep that in your in the mix on this. There's been a massive uptick in this in the 6 months of the shutdown, and the mental health providers like it, and so do the patients. So it's something to. Yeah, there's probably an opportunity there as it relates to this whole issue.
I will definitely take that back to the group. That's a great idea.
Thanks. I'll send you the article.
Sabina.
I think, did Phil freeze again? No, you're there now. So behind me is the Halloween, if you will, decoration outside City Hall. If you guys haven't gone and seen that, it looks really nice. I was passing by and I'm like, wait, it's the Forest Home wagon is out there and thanks to Karen, she did an amazing job of decorating it. So I appreciate that. And we are in orange, which is the 3rd tier in Contra Costa County today, which means the gyms are going to open and some of the other things. What I've noticed and what I've seen is now that a lot of countries and places that opened up, because I do work with so many international folks, are closing back again. And California, that we were getting beaten down on, that we are being very strict, we are actually slowly opening up in a very mindful, thoughtful way. So I feel very proud of, that we've controlled this and we've managed this better than a lot of places which were like, oh, we're done with this. We're opening everything up. And then whether it was London or Florida or anywhere else, and now they're all shutting down again, whereas we're opening. So hopefully we can continue to not take this for granted and keep our numbers low, and continue this trend, because my understanding is that we get evaluated every 2 weeks. If we stay in this tier, then we continue to open up and do the things we like to do. So that's exciting news. Hopefully we continue this trend. And then Joe, if you have any questions around lean, I live, die by that every day. The Kaizen and the lean, and that's kind of what we've been adopting at GE. So just, that was interesting to hear other people. We thought this was just coming back to GE, but I guess lean is everywhere now. But yeah, so that's about it. I think we should give a big shout out to Christina, and give her an opportunity to give an update today, because you're managing the elections right now, and a lot of questions that are coming in, how you're handling all of this stuff, especially our ballot boxes and locations and dates and times. So I would love if you could give an update to folks as well on where they can find some of these ballot boxes and things like that. I know that's been a question coming up constantly.
Well, that's catching you a little unprepared, Christina, unless you are prepared to give a little update.
Yeah, but the calls didn't come to Christina, they came into me.
I think they were calling just about everyone, but so we do have 5 ballot boxes in the city of San Ramon, the most that any city does in the county. The ballot box inside City Hall is still the most popular. We get streams of people all day long, as early as 8:30, trying to get in as soon as the doors were open, and even knocking on the door after 5 o'clock looking for a ballot box. We have solved the problem. We have 2 outdoor ballot boxes that are available 24/7, located at the San Ramon Community Center. So you could actually just drive up to it and drop your ballot. And then also the newest one, which is located at the Dory Station Community Center. And those outdoor ballot boxes will be open until 8 p.m. the day of the election. And then they will be closed once the final ballots go in after 8 p.m. And then we will have a early regional voting site that is actually happening. People can vote in person starting on Friday. It will be Friday, Saturday, and then Monday. And then we'll also have in-person voting on election day as well. And all of the locations and times can be found on our city website or Contra Costa website as well.
Great job, Christina.
Thank you.
Sabina, thank you for suggesting that. It was a great idea.
Thank you.
I'm good. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 16, adjournment.
Is there a motion?
You got it.
Halloween, everybody.
All those in favor signify by clicking off.